Hi, this is Jessica Abad. I teach Math Academy, which is a remediation course for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. For my final project, I chose to focus on 8th grade mathematics, a lesson on slope, specifically slope-intercept form. My standard is MGSE 8.F.3. And it says to interpret the equation y equals mx plus b as defining a linear function whose graph is a straight line, give examples of functions that are not linear. This is actually a very broad standard. It encompasses a lot of different things, and what I've chose to focus on, the student learning objectives for this, is to identify the slope and the y-intercept from the equation y equals mx plus b. They have to be able to identify the slope and identify the y-intercept in order to fully comprehend and interpret what the equation y equals mx plus b means. They have to be able to write an equation in the slope-intercept form using the slope and the y-intercept. So they can either be given the slope and the y-intercept as m equals, b equals, and put them together, or they may have to find them from a graph and then write the equation. And then they need to be able to graph an equation in slope-intercept form. So for day one, I want them to begin by taking a Google Form quiz. This is their pre-test to see what they already know and what they still need to learn. For students that score a 90 or above on this pre-test, I have included some enrichment, and that is at the very last part of the page. The Google quiz link is there for you. It's very basic. It's just about 5 questions, all based on what they're going to be learning throughout this unit. Number 2, after taking the Google quiz, they're going to watch the video called Mini Lesson on Slope-Intercept Form. This is a brief little video of me explaining what y equals mx plus b is and giving them the vocabulary terms that they're going to need to help them throughout the lesson. Because if they don't understand what the equation y equals mx plus b represents, then they're going to be lost throughout the whole thing. So then they're going to go through that. If they don't have any idea of what that is, then they can go on some refresher links for Edpuzzle, and they also have some additional resources from Unit 3. This is the curation tool. This goes back through everything that they've learned so far. Here's their mini slope video that they're going to look at. This again is going over the vocabulary, and then once they have the vocabulary down, they will go into their Google slide presentation on Pear Deck. This allows them to go through the presentation. It again reiterates what y equals mx plus b is, and then they get to interact and answer some questions. Based on the answers that are given, there is a rubric that is provided, and I can give feedback based on their answers. For day 2, they're going to follow along with the Nearpod. They're going to answer some questions throughout the Nearpod. They'll go through maybe 1 or 2 slides, and they'll have some questions that they're going to answer that will also provide feedback through a rubric. And then the second thing they're going to do on day 2 is they're going to go through a Google Slides presentation. This Google slide actually has some examples and classwork that they're going to do. I'll open that up so you can see what it looks like. It says I can graph a line in slope-intercept form. This again is one of the objectives that they're learning, and this is probably one of the hardest ones, so I've given a lot of practice on this. There are some additional notes to go back and guide them through. And then here is the classwork they're going to complete. So they've got several problems that they'll go through, and they should be able to answer. They're going to make a copy of their Google slide presentation when they're done with their name and the title, and then they'll submit it to me. I've included some additional interactive graphing practice. It's not required for them to do, but it is there so that if they don't feel comfortable with just the amount of graphing that they've had there, they can always go back and do some graphing here. I've used IXL, Desmos, and some math games, and they're all about graphing from slope-intercept form. On day 3, they're going to create a flip grid telling me how to graph an equation from slope-intercept form. They're going to explain the steps that they would take to graph the equation y equals 3/4 x minus 1 onto a coordinate plane. They're going to make sure that they use the correct vocabulary. My video is right there and it's linked so they can listen to it and get the explanation. And then they're going to click on Flipgrid and they're going to use the flip code ABAD 2020 to respond. Once they're done responding, there is a rubric for Flipgrid based on their explanation. They'll get graded, and I'll respond and give them some feedback. They'll then take a quiz on quizzes. The link is shown. If they do not score 75 or above, then they'll need to refer to the remediation section, which is below. They have a few options for remediation, but they must complete them before attempting to take the quizzes again. So what will happen is they're only allowed to take the quiz and quizzes one time, and then they'll have to show me. And that's, those are the expectations, and they've been set the expectations since day one. They'll have to show me that they've attempted some of the remediation that's listed. They'll either have to do the first part or they can do one of the additional options in order for me to open up quizzes again for them to retake it and to increase their grade. So they will use the links that are there. And like I said, I've highlighted all my links throughout in pink so they know it's a link that they can click on. The very first thing that they're going to do for remediation is they're going to watch a Khan Academy video on slope intercept form. And then they're going to complete a different Google slide on slope intercept form. And this is more interactive, going back through the notes and back through some practice. There are also additional options. They can complete online practice and iReady or their online textbook. Both are accessible through Clever, and I've linked Clever for them. Clever is a place where we house our school houses, all of our online textbooks, all of our iReady remediation stuff. Anything that we do that is online for kids, it's all in one place. So I've linked that, and then they have to sign in and they'll have to select either iReady and they can complete the lesson called slope intercept form, or they can complete the online textbook lessons on slope intercept form that are 4.2 and 4.3. Once they've done that, then they can go back in and once I see that, they can let me know and I will open the quizzes back up for them. The enrichment, if you score 90 or above on the pre-test, you can move on to the web quest that is located down here. The link is provided. Then once they're done with that, they will answer the same question on Flipgrid and take the quiz for quizzes on day 3. I always like to provide some enrichment because I don't like for my students to have to go through the same thing. If they score a 90 or above on the pre-test, and they don't feel like they need to go through every single lesson and activity that I have planned, I usually give them some other engaging activity that they can complete, and then they can, still take the assessment. And that's pretty much it. This will be my lesson.